This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore.
Between the extremists among our ranks who are employees of our federal government on the payroll of we the people, and the extremists in Congress who were aiding and abetting an attempted overthrow of the United States government, we got a serious problem on our hands. Talking Points Memo just released a bunch of text messages that were previously unknown, that were not public yet. And it really paints a picture of a giant list of individuals who are members of Congress who were actively involved in the attempted overthrow of the United States government, the attempted reinsertion of Donald Trump as president, even though he lost the election by 7+ million votes. They entered into a conspiracy to attempt to defraud the American government, to disenfranchise 81+ million Americans, to take away your vote and insert Donald Trump as president. I'm going to read a little bit from this, and some of these text messages, the ones that are in blue here, are remarkable. Everything from conspiracy to just outright bizarre ass kissing. That's what's shown in these leaked text messages. Mark Meadows exchanged texts with 34 members of Congress about plans to overturn the 2020 election. The messages include battle cries, crackpot legal theories, and invoking martial. Apparently none of these idiots can speak or write in their native tongue. Martial law. Let's start with Ralph Norman, Republican from South Carolina, who I've talked about in recent days. One message identified as coming from Representative Ralph Norman, Republican of South Carolina, to Meadows on January 17th, 2021, 3 days before Joe Biden was set to take office, is a raw distillation of the various themes in the congressional correspondence. In the text, despite a typo, Norman seemed to be proposing a dramatic last-ditch plan, having Trump impose martial law during his final hours in office. He texted this: Mark, in seeing what's happening so quickly and reading about the Dominion lawsuits attempting to stop any meaningful investigation, we are at a point of no return in saving our republic. Our last hope is invoking martial law. Please urge to President to do so. Marshall, M-A-R-S-H-A-L-L, rather than M-A-R-T-I-A-L. Idiots. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene level stupidity of a person who's in a position of power in the United States, pressuring the chief of staff of the White House to have Donald Trump declare martial law in order to stay in office 3 days before the inauguration. The text, which has not been previously reported, is a particularly vivid example of how congressional opposition to Biden's election was underpinned by paranoia and debunked conspiracy theories like those about Dominion voting machines. Norman's text also showed the potentially violent lengths to which some congressional Republicans were willing to go in order to keep Trump in power. This should be a wake-up call for every American. We have members of Congress who are violating their oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And they themselves chose to be that domestic threat to our Constitution. Here's Brian Babin, Republican of Texas. No shocker there. Based on the log, some of the election objectors saw themselves as participating in an epic battle. Representative Brian Babin, Republican of Texas, sent at least 21 text messages to Meadows and received at least 4 responses. On November 6th, he dramatically urged Meadows to refuse to give up. He texted this: Mark, when we lose Trump, we lose our republic. Imagine being such a dedicated, sycophantic cult member that you believe when Donald Trump stops being president, we lose our republic. I mean, it's either just bananas psychosis or it's ass-kissing to another level. We're with you down here in Texas and refuse to live under a corrupt Marxist dictatorship. Liberty! Exclamation point, and he signs it Babin. Babin also suggested he and his colleagues were eager to prevent Trump's impending loss. Without evidence, he described it as a theft and indicated GOP leadership was trying to focus on their election victories rather than Trump's defeat. Dear Mark, you know how you start a text message. Dear Mark, like it's a letter. Many of us Republican House members want to help the president in any way we can to prevent the outright theft of this presidential election. So far, I've only heard our leadership talk about us picking up 5 new diverse members while the presidency is at stake. We need some guidance as to what we should be saying and doing. Please let some of us know what you would suggest in earnest prayer for POTUS in our republic, Brian Babin. Of course, a list like this would not be complete without a text from Jim Jordan. The sexual assault ignoring Jim Jordan. The fast-talking huckster, Jim Jordan, who texted this to White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. On January 6, 2021, Vice President Mike Pence, as President of the Senate, should call out all electoral votes that he believes are unconstitutional and no electoral votes at all. In accordance with guidance from our founding father, Alexander Hamilton, and judicial precedent, and he goes on this whole thing, giving strategy as to why Mike Pence, who ultimately we know now, did not go along with this unconstitutional scheme to overthrow the United States government, to disregard the 81+ million votes from Americans who chose Joe Biden to be their president. And again, as I said, there was a lot of weird ass kissing, as is to be expected with anything regarding these Republicans and Donald Trump. The aroma of Donald Trump's butthole is like pumpkin spice to Republicans. They love it. Andrew Clyde, remember Andrew Clyde, who said that this is just like a normal tourist event, the insurrection, the violent insurrection. In the wake of the Capitol attack, some members wrote to Meadows and offered encouragement for Trump. One of them was Representative Andrew Clyde, Republican of Georgia. On January 9th, 3 days post the insurrection, 3 days post this photo where he cowered in fear on the floor of the House. He had an idea for Trump to return to social media after he was banned from Twitter and Facebook for his part in fomenting the violence. Andrew Clyde, Mark, this is Representative Andrew Clyde, Georgia, 9th District. I would like to pass to POTUS that we are still with him. I believe in him, and I want to encourage him. I will do my best to continue to fight for election integrity too. Jody Heiss suggested this was a good way to reach President Trump with encouragement. This is practically a happy ending, this text message. Please convey to the president that I'd love to via text message because I love him so much, said Andrew Clyde. Gross. I'm not even going to read the rest of it. And then finally, here's Louis Gohmert, maybe the most stupid member of Congress, begging for a ride on Air Force One to go down to some rally in Georgia. Look at this. I'm not even going to bother reading it. This is just, one, embarrassing for Republicans that they're such just feckless, worthless cowards, but also their abject disregard for the very document they rose their hand and swore their oath, gave a solemn vow to stand for the Constitution, to stand in the gap against threats to the Constitution, whether they be foreign or whether they be domestic. And it doesn't matter to them, their word, their oath. Many of them put their hand on a Bible when swearing this oath, something that ostensibly, by their own account, means something to them. We are in dire straits in this republic at this time. And I'm not sure that the Justice Department, led by Merrick Garland, has what it takes to get the job done in the time allotted. I'm sure they have it in their head that they care and they want to get it done, but there is only so much time left, Merrick Garland. You know how a calendar works. You know the term of this administration draws nigh. Punishment must befall these seditious traitors to our country. Loyalty to Donald Trump over loyalty to the Constitution of the United States is an unacceptable proposition. I think you would agree. What do you think out there? I'd love to know. You can call, leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. You can email me daily at dollemore.com. Oh, I better stop with my papers. I got an email the other day about my papers. They make too much noise in the microphone, and it's like fingernails on a chalkboard or something. If that's the case, yeah, you know what? Sorry about that. Follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter, Instagram. There, you don't have to listen to my papers on the desk. It's quiet. It's just you read my tweets. Look at the pictures I post on Instagram. If you appreciate what I do, despite the noises I make with my mouth and my papers, please click the join button below. Become a channel member for $1.99 a month. Or you can click on over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. Both those are great ways to support what I do right here. I love you guys. I appreciate you very much. I'm going to do a separate video, maybe this next week, maybe this week, talking about just kind of a wrap up of my year on YouTube. YouTube gives the kind of a wrap like Spotify does, and I'm going to talk about that. It's all because of you that I am where I am. It's all because of you that I'm as lucky as I am, and I appreciate you, and I want to share in that with you. So look forward to that. I love you guys. I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine. Take care of one another.